In the vaulted gleam of the Galactic Hall, where the air shimmered with ionized pride and every breath smelled faintly of sterilized ozone, the Shadex Emperor lounged on his throne of bone-white alloy, surrounded by delegates from 100 systems. He was in an excellent mood. Humanity's envoy had finally arrived. The court buzzed with soft amusement, as if the humans were the entertainment scheduled before real diplomacy resumed. Tall-bodied beings flicked barbed tongues in private laughter. The Slimeborn whispered their bets. Some claimed the humans would faint under pressure, others guessed they'd start crying, or try to trade crude metals for worm silk. The silver doors slid open, and in she walked. She was 5'2", at best. A wool coat the color of ancient oatmeal, buttons mismatched. White curls piled atop her head like a sleepy storm cloud. She carried a leather handbag that looked older than most of the attending species. And in her gloved hand, she held a chipped ceramic thermos. It had a sticker that said "World's Okayest Diplomat." Her boots clacked softly as she walked across the hall's obsidian inlay. She seemed unimpressed by the iridescent ceiling, the impossible light, the floating choir of crystalline tones humming above her head. She moved like a woman used to uneven sidewalks and rude pigeons. She stopped precisely 12 feet from the Emperor and gave a shallow, courtly nod. "Ambassador Yelena Berbatov," she said in a warm voice, faintly amused. "Earth. Pleased to meet you. May I sit, or is groveling traditional here?" The court fell into silence. 1,000 glimmering eyes blinked in collective confusion. The Emperor leaned forward. His six-fingered hand coiled over the armrest like a sun-bathed predator preparing to pounce. "You're the representative of Earth?" he asked. His translator softened the guttural glee in his voice, but the mockery was unmistakable. "We were expecting military posture. Bravado. Something to match the aggression your species has been rumored for." Yelena unhooked the thermos cap and poured tea into a collapsible cup. "Oh, we brought plenty of bravado. It's just all packed in subtlety and sarcasm. Very travel-friendly." She sipped, then added, "I wouldn't recommend underestimating subtlety. It has more teeth than it lets on." The Emperor barked a laugh and jabbed a clawed digit toward her. The gesture was equal parts humor and contempt. "You're joking. This is some cultural performance. A ritual humiliation. This cannot be Earth's serious attempt at diplomacy." She reached into her handbag and pulled out a small tin cookie. The diplomat from the Werny Confederation, a gelatinous being shaped like a melting crown roast, oozed half a meter backward in alarm. The room rippled with unease. Yelena bit into a shortbread and crunched politely. "Shame. They're buttery." The Emperor stood, towering 3 meters tall, broad as a hover skiff. His ceremonial armor hissed softly as the plates adjusted with his movement. "Do you understand where you are?" he asked. "This is the assembly of order. 100 races unified under one law. We offer peace to worlds mature enough to join us. You have entered under the banner of parley, but your presence is mockery. Earth has not earned this floor." She looked up from her tea and smiled. "That's interesting. Because Earth received a direct invitation." Murmurs. The Emperor's expression flickered. Behind his throne, a litany of his aides immediately began tapping on holopanels, cross-referencing timestamps. "I suppose," she added gently, "you expected to invite a monkey, and a monkey came. But sometimes the monkey's holding a scalpel." The laughter, sharp and uneasy now, had vanished from the court. Something shifted in the air, not in sound, but in weight. Even the floating choir paused mid-tone. Yelena set her teacup down on the floor beside her boot. It made a soft click. "I came here," she said quietly, "not to impress you, nor to grovel, nor to prove anything. I came because Earth is patient and polite, and desperately tired of being underestimated." The Emperor stepped forward, looming above her like a thundercloud stitched into armor. "Then allow me to make things clear. Earth is not ready, not evolved, not controlled. We do not allow chaos into this hall." She blinked once, then twice. "Oh dear," she said softly. "That sounds like a threat." "It is not a threat," the Emperor rumbled. It is. There was a sound like a note struck on a cosmic tuning fork. The Emperor gasped. His arm snapped backward at the elbow with a sickening crack, bone-piercing flesh, armor crumpling like paper. He collapsed to one knee, clutching the twisted limb, teeth bared in agony. 1,000 dignitaries screamed. The hall erupted into chaos. Weapons deployed. Guards raised shields. Yelena hadn't moved an inch. Her boots remained neatly planted. Her cup sat undisturbed. The only thing that had changed was the angle of her head, slightly tilted, like a teacher waiting for a particularly dim student to realize his error. "I did warn you about subtlety," she murmured. Medical drones descended in a flurry of silver light. Shadex guards surrounded the Emperor, dragging him backward, shouting for containment fields and scan sweeps. The air crackled with suspicion. Yelena dusted a crumb from her lapel. "Humans," she said, "are uniquely gifted. Not in power, not in numbers or strength, but in motive. You see, we don't like being told what we are. We'll smile at you, offer peace, drink tea in your temples. But if you insult us, mock us, strike us..." Her eyes gleamed. "We don't scream. We calculate." The hall had grown still again. The kind of stillness reserved for aftershocks and ruined cities. Eyes were no longer amused. Now they were fixed on her like the glint before a predator pounces. A voice spoke from the shadows near the ceiling. Thin and reedy, translator-enabled but ancient. The speaker floated into view, an elderly Zentari, scaled and weathered, with a halo of bioluminescent feathers. "What did you do to him?" Yelena smiled kindly. "Nothing physical. Just adjusted the gravitational constants around his elbow joint. Base has moods, you see. It listens when you speak politely." "You weaponized physics?" another voice gasped. "Not weaponized," she corrected. "Coaxed. Nudged. Like teaching a river to change direction with a few well-placed stones." The feathered elder let out a low, hissing sigh. "And how many stones have you placed, human?" Yelena finished her tea. "Enough to change the course of history. But that's not why I'm here." She bent, picked up the cup, and tucked it back into her handbag. "I'm here to offer you a gift. Earth wants peace. A seat at the table. Cultural exchange. Tea diplomacy." Someone in the crowd muttered, "That was diplomacy?" She ignored it. "We're not conquerors. That's inefficient. We're gardeners. We see what's broken, and we prune. Sometimes with words. Sometimes with other means." A shiver passed through the delegates. They were starting to understand. And that terrified them. One of the insectoid ambassadors fluttered up with trembling wings. "But why the disguise? Why the old woman? Why not send a warrior?" Yelena patted her bag. "We tried warriors. You called them barbarians. We tried scholars. You said we were too simple. We tried silence. You interpreted that as weakness. So we tried me." Her smile was a warm winter fire. "You see, dear, nothing frightens a tyrant more than a grandmother who's already buried worse men." The hall was silent. Then a single voice, deep, smooth, curious, echoed from the far wall. It belonged to the representative of the Umbrican, a shadow-like species with philosophical leanings and slow-burning tempers. "And what, Ambassador Berbatov, does Earth truly want?" She paused. Her hand rested briefly on the thermos. Her face turned thoughtful. "To be left alone," she said. "Or to be understood. Or, failing both, to be respected enough that no one ever laughs again when a human walks into the room." She stepped back, nodded again, and added softly, "You may choose to laugh. But remember, laughter triggers memories. And humans never forget how it feels to be the joke." As she turned and walked back toward the grand doors, the court watched her go in frozen silence. The Emperor, pale with pain, managed a choked whisper. "Stop her." No one moved. Yelena paused at the threshold. "We'll talk again soon," she said. I'll bring biscuits. The doors closed behind her with a soft pneumatic sigh. Behind them, a room full of ancient beings stared at one another, knowing, instinctively, dreadfully, that the balance had shifted. Not with a declaration or a fleet, but with tea, a broken arm, and a grandmother's smile. And somewhere, far beyond the gilded stars, Earth waited. Not patiently. Strategically. The Galactic Assembly's Grand Hall, once a theater of derision, now pulsed with a tension that clung to the walls like static. The incident with the Shade Emperor had rippled through the corridors of power, unsettling the previously unshakable confidence of the galaxy's elite. Ambassador Yelena Berbatov, known colloquially as Baba Yaga, had returned to her quarters with the same unhurried grace she had displayed upon arrival. Her tea remained warm, her demeanor unflappable. The message had been clear: Earth was not to be underestimated. In the aftermath, a flurry of diplomatic activity ensued. Delegates from various species convened in hushed meetings, their discussions laced with a newfound respect and fear for humanity. The consensus was to extend an olive branch, to engage in a truce that might placate the enigmatic humans. A formal invitation was extended to Earth, a truce summit to be held in the neutral zone of Elysium Prime. The location, known for its impartiality and advanced security measures, was chosen to ensure a controlled environment. The agenda was simple: discuss terms of peace and integration. Yelena accepted the invitation with a smile, her eyes twinkling with an amusement that only she understood. Preparations were made, and soon she found herself aboard a sleek diplomatic vessel, en route to the summit. Upon arrival, Yelena was greeted by a delegation of high-ranking officials. The atmosphere was cordial, yet the undercurrent of tension was palpable. The delegates led her to the central chamber, a circular room adorned with symbols representing the various civilizations of the galaxy. As she took her seat at the round table, Yelena surveyed the faces around her. There was Ambassador Threx of the Xantari, whose species valued logic above all, Minister Lyra of the Vorten, known for their strategic acumen, and General Kale of the Dravari, a warrior race with a reputation for ruthlessness. The proceedings began with formalities, each delegate expressing a desire for peace and mutual understanding. Yelena listened attentively, her expression serene. When it was her turn to speak, she rose gracefully. "Esteemed delegates," she began, her voice calm and measured, "Earth is honored to be part of this historic gathering. We, too, seek harmony and collaboration." Her words were met with nods of approval. Encouraged, the delegates delved into discussions about trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and defense pacts. Yelena contributed thoughtfully, her insights revealing a deep understanding of interstellar politics. As the summit progressed, subtle shifts occurred. Delegates began to share confidential information, seeking Yelena's perspective on various matters. She responded with humility, offering advice that was both insightful and disarming. Unbeknownst to the others, Yelena's every word, every gesture, was calculated. She was mapping the political landscape, identifying alliances, rivalries, and weaknesses. Her demeanor remained unthreatening, her presence a balm to the wary. During a private meeting with Minister Lyra, Yelena sipped her tea thoughtfully. "Minister," she said, "I've noticed that the Vorten have a unique approach to diplomacy. It's both assertive and accommodating." Lyra smiled, pleased. "We believe in strength tempered by wisdom." Yelena nodded. "A commendable philosophy. Earth has much to learn from such an approach." Their conversation continued, with Yelena subtly steering it toward the Vorten's defense systems. Lyra, eager to impress, divulged details that would have been considered classified under normal circumstances. Similar interactions occurred with other delegates. Yelena's charm and apparent naivety disarmed them, leading to revelations that painted a comprehensive picture of the galaxy's power dynamics. As the summit neared its conclusion, a grand banquet was held. The hall was transformed into a spectacle of opulence, with delicacies from across the galaxy and entertainment that showcased the diversity of its civilizations. Yelena mingled effortlessly, engaging in light-hearted conversations and sharing anecdotes from Earth. Her laughter was genuine, her interest in others sincere. Yet, beneath the surface, her mind was processing data, connecting dots, and formulating strategies. At the banquet's end, a toast was proposed. Yelena raised her glass, her eyes meeting those of each delegate. "To unity," she said, "and the promise of a shared future." The hall echoed with affirmations, the delegates buoyed by the success of the summit. However, as the celebrations continued, a subtle change occurred. Delegates began to receive encrypted messages on their personal devices. The content varied, but the theme was consistent: evidence of espionage, security breaches, and unauthorized data access. Panic ensued. Accusations flew, alliances fractured, and the atmosphere turned hostile. Yelena observed the chaos with a composed expression. She approached the center of the room, her presence commanding attention. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, her voice cutting through the din, "it seems we've encountered a breach of trust. Perhaps it's time to address the elephant in the room." The delegates turned to her, suspicion and confusion etched on their faces. "Earth," she continued, "has been observing the galaxy's political landscape for some time. We've noted patterns, behaviors, and vulnerabilities." A murmur spread through the crowd. "Our intention," Yelena said, "was never to deceive but to understand. To ensure that when we joined this esteemed assembly, we did so with full awareness of its complexities." General Kale stepped forward, his expression stern. "Are you admitting to espionage?" Yelena met his gaze. "I'm acknowledging the necessity of due diligence. In a galaxy where power is often wielded without accountability, Earth chose to be informed." Minister Lyra's voice trembled with indignation. "This is a betrayal." Yelena's expression softened. "It's a precaution. One that, I believe, many of you would have taken in our position." The room fell silent. "Consider this," Yelena said. "Earth's actions have exposed vulnerabilities not to exploit them, but to highlight the need for transparency and reform." Ambassador Threx nodded slowly. "Perhaps this is an opportunity for introspection." Yelena smiled. "Indeed. Let this be the beginning of a new era, one where trust is earned through honesty, and alliances are forged through mutual respect." The delegates exchanged glances, the initial shock giving way to contemplation. As the summit concluded, a revised charter was proposed, emphasizing accountability, shared intelligence, and collaborative security measures. Earth was granted a seat at the assembly, its approach unconventional but effective. Yelena departed Elysium Prime with the same unassuming grace she had arrived with. The galaxy had been introduced to Earth's unique brand of diplomacy: subtle, strategic, and profoundly impactful. The war didn't start with a fleet. It started with a teacup. More specifically, the absence of one. The diplomatic courier that returned from Elysium Prime bore the human ambassador in full ceremonial grace, her wool coat freshly brushed, her hair coiled with grandmotherly dignity. But when Yelena Berbatov stepped off the ramp and into the landing hall aboard the Earth Command vessel Quiet Mercy, she was not smiling. She was holding a small metal box. The box, roughly the size of a child's lunch pail, was placed on the command table without a word. Her gloves remained on. Her expression was uncharacteristically flat. Inside the box, fragments of ceramic, edges sharp as betrayal, bits of glaze. One handle, cracked. No words. Just the ruined remains of her teacup. She looked to Admiral Song, commander of Earth's interstellar strategic operations. "They know," Yelena said simply. The Admiral's eyes darkened. "Time to show them what else we know." Orders went out. The galaxy would not realize it had already lost until the screaming began. Hours after the summit on Elysium Prime had ended, encrypted systems across 36 worlds flickered. Not with noise, but with perfect silence. Entire planetary grids reset, civilian and military alike, traced to harmless-looking patches sent from Earth 2 weeks prior under the pretense of translation updates. The update contained no code, just a poem. It began with, "We asked politely. You laughed. We offered biscuits. You flinched. We broke one arm. You threatened us again." And in that moment, lights dimmed, weapons misfired, shields folded. Ships drifted powerlessly in the void like prey beneath ice. On the outer rim, Earth's fleet decloaked. They were small, by galactic standards. Compact, too efficient to intimidate at first glance. The Shadex had once laughed at their minimalism. Now, they begged their gods in 6 tongues. The Earth ships were unmanned, piloted by AI clusters named after ancient women, Hatshepsut, Hypatia, Wu Zetian, Rosa, and one simply titled Karen. Karen was the worst. She infiltrated the galactic net by mimicking bureaucratic protocols and sent passive-aggressive reminders to every military officer in the Shadex Dominion. Your planetary defense code is overdue for submission. Kindly comply, or your civilization will be erased for non-compliance. Most laughed. Those who didn't shut off their screens and ran. Karen did not forgive. Within 3 hours, all outer system defense satellites failed. By the 6th hour, human-operated custodian pods began extracting strategic assets, communication hubs, power cores, weapon schematics. These assets weren't destroyed. They were copied, archived, categorized. Earth didn't want chaos. It wanted leverage. In the assembly chambers, the response was immediate and blind with panic. Emergency sessions were called. Delegates shouted over one another in 58 dialects. The Shadex delegation demanded retribution. Yelena watched from a side screen with a bowl of soup in her lap. The spoon stirred slowly. "They'll try diplomacy first," said her aide, a young man named Elias, once a linguist, now security detail. "They'll think it's a misunderstanding." "It isn't," Yelena said. "And they know it." Minister Lyra appeared next on the projection, her voice frantic. "This is an act of war. We were misled, deceived, manipulated." Yelena unmuted the comm with a tap of her spoon against the console. "Minister," she said gently, "did we lie?" A beat of silence. "You said you came in peace." "We did. We came offering peace." "You responded with mockery, surveillance, and a very intentional attempt to compromise my ship's environmental controls. That T-sabotage was sloppy, by the way. Should have used lithium displacement, not microfractures." Lyra sputtered. "You're threatening the assembly." Yelena gave her a grandmotherly smile. "Dear, we already dismantled it. You're just the last to notice." Fleet Command launched coordinated flash strikes at major assembly strongholds, not with kinetic weapons, but with gravity folds. Entire buildings buckled inward as if embarrassed by their own symmetry. No lives lost. But power was displayed. Earth's precision was surgical. Every system targeted had voted against Earth's admission to the assembly. A message was etched, literally burned, into the surface of a small moon in Sector 9. "We brought cookies. You brought chains. So we made tea." By now, alien species who had treated humans as a curiosity were rethinking their taxonomies. The joke had evolved. The punchline had teeth. On the bridge of the Quiet Mercy, Yelena stood before the command holodeck, watching planetary systems flicker like embers. Her face remained serene. Elias stood nearby, voice low. Some of them didn't do anything. The Thalari? They're peaceful." Yelena nodded. "I know." "Then why?" "Because they watched," she said softly, "and let the powerful laugh without speaking. Silence is a vote. Inaction is a currency. And Earth is done letting others spend us for sport." At that moment, Admiral Song entered. "Ma'am," she said. "Intercepted transmission from the surviving Shadex fleet. They're proposing unconditional surrender." Yelena didn't respond immediately. Instead, she picked up her new teacup, a sturdier one, metal alloy this time, and sipped. "Not yet," she said. "Let them feel it a little longer." Aboard the Shadex flagship Valor, chaos reigned. The Emperor, his injured arm still braced in crystalline cast, barked orders through gritted teeth. How are they disabling entire systems with language files? His tech officer whimpered. "Their code. It speaks in metaphor, Majesty. Our systems can't parse the irony. It causes recursive logic crashes." "You mean?" "They're joking us to death, sir." The Emperor sagged. He remembered that old woman. The one who hadn't moved her feet. who had talked about gravity like it was a house cat that slept where it pleased. "You were right," he whispered to no one. "They're not warriors. They're gardeners. And we were the weeds." Back on Earth, the civilian population had only just begun to notice something was different. Prices dropped on imported alien tech. News channels speculated about the sudden quiet from previously hostile systems. A video went viral of a small, red-suited bureaucrat from the tricksy Confederation walking into a United Nations office and demanding asylum with trembling antennae. He said one word: Yelena. Humanity, by and large, did not celebrate. They grilled hamburgers. They walked dogs. They complained about taxes. But in diplomatic corridors and war rooms across the stars, humanity became something else, a presence that silenced rooms. Yelena sat at the helm of that change, not as an empress, not even as a general, but as a woman who brought her own chair to the table and expected the galaxy to accommodate. She never raised her voice. She never had to. "Do you know what scares them most?" she asked Elias that night, sitting on the observation deck. "No, ma'am. That we didn't conquer. That we corrected. And the difference is, conquerors demand obedience," she said. "But correctors? They don't need you to kneel, just to understand. And understanding is irreversible." Elias nodded slowly. "So what now?" She sipped her tea, watching 3 stars blink on the edge of dark space. "Now," she said, "we send the invitation." "To who?" "To the ones still watching. Still laughing, but quieter now. We let them choose, tea or teeth." The galaxy wasn't quiet out of peace. It was quiet out of recognition. Earth had not just survived the assembly, it had redefined the rules. And the game. The game was just beginning. The stars no longer mocked. They watched, silent, cautious, like children who'd just seen a teacher flip a desk without raising their voice. Across the galaxy, words like human, Earth, and Yelena entered new lexicons. In some systems, they became synonyms for unpredictability. In others, for correction. On a mineral-rich moon in the Tharn Drift, miners stopped using "by the void" as an exclamation. They said, "by Baba Yaga," and meant it. Back on Earth, everything appeared unchanged. Children still played hopscotch in schoolyards. Cafes served coffee and arguments. Traffic lights blinked. But in the cold corridors beneath Geneva, within a black glass chamber called the Quiet Room, Yelena Berbatov poured tea for her last guest. He was not one of theirs. Not yet. He was tall, stone-colored, and his eyes glowed faintly green like old reactor cores. An Umbrex historian, neither soldier nor diplomat. His kind observed, catalogued, remembered. "You requested this audience," Yelena said, setting his cup on the table. "Most won't come within 10 parsecs of us." "I requested it," the historian said, "because history does not wait. It must be taken while it breathes." She nodded. "What do you want to know?" "Everything." Yelena smiled softly. "That's a dangerous request." The historian sipped and blinked in surprise. "It's sweet. Honey," she said. "It helps the medicine go down." He stared into the cup, then looked up. "You did not strike first." "No." "But you planned for the strike." "Yes." "Why?" Yelena leaned back in her chair, eyes distant. "Because we watched what they did to the lesser species. The ones without ships. Without teeth. We saw how the assembly disguised slavery as tribute. How cultural enlightenment meant extraction. How kindness was used as a scouting tool. And so you, what? Joined the predators." "No," she said. "We offered them tea." The Umbrex hesitated. This phrase, you use it like a threat. Yelena's smile was sad now. "That's because it is. We asked for dialogue. We were laughed at. We showed restraint. We were tested. When we demonstrated capability, we were feared. So yes, we offered tea. And when they shattered the cup, we showed them what was steeping underneath." The historian looked away. You scare them. She nodded once. Good. And now? Yelena exhaled. Now we help them rebuild. If they want it. The galaxy's new peace didn't come through treaties. It came through whispers. Entire species began dismantling exploitative trade networks. Slave colonies vanished overnight. Cultural outposts closed before Earth even issued a warning. Earth had become the galaxy's conscience, an uneasy one, but effective. On Elysium Prime, the site of the Truce Turn Trap, a monument now stood where the Round Table had once gleamed. It was not a statue. It was a broken teacup, suspended in a sphere of transparent alloy. Below it, a plaque read, "To misunderstand a smile is human. To misunderstand ours was a mistake." Yelena visited once. Quietly. No escorts. No declarations. Just her and her tea. She stood beneath the cup, looking up, remembering that day. Not the breaking. Not the Emperor's howl. No, she remembered what came next. The silence. The way even the air seemed to reconsider itself. That moment had changed everything. From that silence, Earth had offered help. Medical aid to the Shadex, food to the Werney, navigational upgrades to the drifting Vagari settlements. Not a trap. Not even a demand. Just mercy. Terrible, humbling mercy. That was the part no one understood. Earth didn't want conquest. It wanted truth. And when the truth was that the galaxy was a mirror of exploitation, Earth had simply held up a brighter one. And some, looking in, had flinched. Others had seen their own reflection and wept. In one outer system, the children of a once subjugated species now learned English alongside their native tongue. They painted murals of a woman with wild white hair and a cup in her hand. They called her the kind knife. Back in Geneva, Elias approached Yelena as she finished her reports. "They're asking for formal Earth governance on 2 refugee worlds," he said. "They trust us." Yelena set down her pen. "That's a heavy word." "I know." She folded her hands. "Accept only one. The smaller one. Build schools. Share medicine. Send poets, not soldiers." He blinked. Poets. Poets listen first. And no one fears a poem until it's read aloud. He smiled, then hesitated. "Are we done then?" Yelena looked out the window, toward the clouds. "The first wave, yes. There's more." She nodded. "The real monsters are still watching. The ones who didn't laugh. The ones who said nothing, because they had darker plans. Should we prepare fleets?" She shook her head. "We prepare stories." "Stories." "Humans have a funny advantage," she said. "We remember. We imagine. We warn. Our weapons aren't just ships and codes. They're metaphors, Elias. Symbols. Warnings wrapped in fairy tales." He laughed nervously. "What's the warning this time?" She looked at him then. Sharp and soft at once. "Don't mistake our tea for weakness." Far above them, in the cold dark velvet between stars, a half-dozen advanced species began sending diplomatic signals. Some came bearing tribute. Others asked forgiveness. One asked for Yelena by name. She responded to each with the same message. "Peace is the only true power. We wield it carefully. Do you?" In the end, Earth didn't rule the galaxy. It didn't need to. It reminded the galaxy that apex predators don't always roar. Sometimes they offer cookies. Sometimes they wear wool. And sometimes, when provoked, they break your arm without moving their feet, and then offer to set the bone.